Okay, so let's talk about the impeachment. Do you think it could be a political game? And why do you believe that Speaker McCarthy in the last 24, 36 hours has begun to lean more into the notion of opening an impeachment inquiry?
Well, this is impeachment theater. We right now are starting the appropriations process, and there is not consensus on the Republican side about what the numbers should be. Kevin McCarthy promised when he was running for Speaker one set of numbers, and then he made an agreement with President Biden for the debt ceiling increase on another set of numbers. So right now, he has got to convince the public that he's credible and that Republicans have a duty to follow him. The party itself is not in agreement, and we're going to have some real trouble passing appropriations bills.
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. It sounds like you're saying that the Speaker is talking about impeachment to try to distract conservatives like you from spending bills that you don't like.
Well, not just me, but the public. What he's doing is he's saying there's a shiny object over here, and we're really going to focus on that. We just need to get all these things done so that we can focus on the shiny object. Most of us are concerned about spending. It is an existential threat to this country. And so we want to move forward with the spending bills in a responsible way.
Do you believe there is any reason why the House Republican majority should open an inquiry right now other than politics?
I don't think it's responsible for us to talk about impeachment. When you start raising the I word, it sends a message to the public and it sets expectations. I do think that what's going on in the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee is absolutely fair and is part of our responsibility.
Now, I've heard Republicans say the quiet part out loud plenty of times, but it's not often we hear a Republican say the absolute unvarnished truth out loud about his own party's true motivations on national television. This is Republican Congressman Ken Buck of Colorado, who, by the way, is no moderate politician. He is a far-right MAGA Republican and a member of the ultra-right-wing Freedom Caucus. And yet still he's capable of acknowledging what McCarthy's true motivations are here. He explains that McCarthy, who has all of a sudden started floating impeachment against Joe Biden out of thin air, is using this tactic to try to dangle a shiny object in front of the far-right MAGA wing of the party to distract them while he negotiates a budget with Biden, because he previously promised budget cuts to the MAGA wing to become Speaker that were unattainable, and that he knew were unattainable but vowed to enact anyway, because that's how desperate for the Speaker's gavel Kevin McCarthy was. And what makes this even more remarkable is that Ken Buck wasn't even one of those handful of MAGA Republicans like Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz who was withholding his vote against McCarthy for Speaker during that disastrous process that took 15 votes for McCarthy to finally get a bare majority to support him. Ken Buck actually supported McCarthy from the first ballot. By any stretch of the imagination, you would not expect him to come out and expose McCarthy's deceitful tactics on national TV. But McCarthy is so bad at controlling his caucus and so terrible at political maneuvering that even this guy is calling him out without an ounce of fear of retribution. All this tells us is what we've known all along. Kevin McCarthy is the weakest speaker to ever hold the gavel. Think about it. He promised the entire world to the MAGA cult to get the title of Speaker, and now that he has the job, he has no ability to actually run the House. That incompetence has left a power vacuum in his conference, and it ends up getting filled by people like this.
And it continues on. What I'm demanding is that the Republican-led House of Representatives move forward on an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden, because this type of corruption should never be allowed to stand. We must expunge President Trump's wrongful impeachments, and we must impeach Joe Biden.
And so what does McCarthy do to wrestle that strength back from the fringe figures of his party? What does he do to project strength? What does he do to make clear that it's him who leads his conference? He capitulates and does exactly what Marjorie Taylor Greene demands of him. I did mention that he is weak, right? And just as a side note, let's be clear, you cannot expunge the impeachments of presidents. Donald Trump will forever and always be a twice impeached one-term president. He will never, ever wash that stain off of himself for as long as he lives and long after. No matter how many bullshit resolutions Republicans try to pass claiming otherwise, impeachments are permanent. If Republicans do try to pass a resolution claiming that his impeachments are expunged, the only effect it'll have is to prove even further how subservient the entire Republican Party is to Trump. So subservient that their entire House majority is entirely focused on kowtowing to his every demand. And Kevin McCarthy knows he serves Trump because Trump is the person who made him the Speaker. Here's a photo of Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to convince the last holdouts against McCarthy during the Speaker vote, and she has Trump on the phone on the House floor, using him to whip votes for McCarthy. And just like Marjorie Taylor Greene, you can be sure that Trump is going to exercise his control over McCarthy every chance he gets. Here he is practically commanding Kevin to do exactly what he tells him to do.
Congress, if you will, please investigate the political witch hunts against me currently being brought by the corrupt DOJ and FBI, who are totally out of control. They don't go after Biden with all of his corruption, the most corrupt president in history, but they keep coming after me from the day I came down the escalator, all failures. This continuing saga is retribution against me for winning and, even more importantly to them, election interference regarding the 2024 presidential election. It will be their updated form of rigging our most important election. Look at the polls. They can't beat me, MAGA, Make America Great Again, at the ballot box. The only way they can win is to cheat, and they cheat better than anybody has ever seen anybody cheat. Stop them now. Save our country. Make America great again.
And not for nothing, but imagine how pathetic Kevin McCarthy has to be to watch that video of some desperate moron begging people to save his sinking candidacy, and his first thought isn't, "Dear God, how pathetic," but rather, "Sir, yes, sir, whatever you say, sir." Because again, he owes his entire position to Trump, and he admitted as much.
But I do want to especially thank President Trump. I don't think anybody should doubt his influence. He was with me from the beginning. Somebody wrote the doubt of whether he was there, and he was all in. He would call me and he would call others. And he really was, I was just talking to him tonight, helping get those final votes. And what he's really saying, really for the party and the country, that we have to come together. We have to focus on the economy. We've got to focus, make our borders secure. We got to do so much work to do, and he was a great influence to make that all happen. So thank you, President Trump.
So this Ken Buck clip is just a reminder that McCarthy is nothing but an empty suit who doesn't command respect even from the Republicans who voted for him to be Speaker. And it's also a reminder that from McCarthy to McConnell to DeSantis, there is not a single Republican in a position of power who is either able or willing to stand up to Trump in any meaningful way. For a party filled with people who beat their chests as alphas, it sure is difficult to actually find one. And all of this is happening despite the fact that Trump has proven himself to be toxic for Republicans electorally. For all this talk about how the DOJ prosecuting Trump is part of some deep state conspiracy to help Biden win the election, it's worth reminding Republicans Democrats don't need the DOJ to beat him. Democrats are doing just fine because of Trump's own incompetence. Since Trump was president back in 2016, Democrats have overperformed in literally every election cycle thereafter. In 2018, Democrats won the House by the biggest midterm margin in history. In 2020, Biden beat Trump himself by 7 million votes, held the House, and flipped the Senate. In 2022, a year that was supposed to be some huge red wave cycle for Republicans, Democrats still retained the Senate and only lost the House by a historically narrow 5-seat margin. Every single Secretary of State and gubernatorial candidate running in a swing state on Trump's MAGA agenda lost, all of them. Arizona now has a Democratic governor and 2 Democratic senators for the first time in 72 years. The Pennsylvania House just flipped to Democrats for the first time in over a decade. Michigan Democrats took full control of state government for the first time in 40 years. I could go on and on, but the point is clear. Donald Trump is absolute kryptonite for any party that wants to have a national governing majority. But clearly knowing this isn't stopping Republicans from doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on an extreme MAGA agenda that includes national abortion bans, cutting earned benefits, and election denial conspiracy theories. This party exists for one reason and one reason alone, and that is to serve the one person responsible for destroying its very viability. But as the saying goes, never interrupt your enemy while he's making a mistake. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.